Well, I thought it would be great if we could begin with the beginning and somehow locate where it all started with preservation. Because I remember that when we were in Beijing together about 10 years ago, that this topic started to be relevant. And in 2002, I think you received a commission from the Beijing government to investigate and define for China a specific form of preservation. And that led then to this text, Preservation is Overtaking Us. Was that the beginning?
It was not really the beginning. I mean, I think in retrospect, the beginning was earlier. And we decided to kind of show in this Biennale only projects that were dealing with the past. And when we made that category, we discovered that actually we had done 32 projects, and that the earliest and in a certain way our first European project was the Parliament for Holland in 79. And there already we were kind of very much concerned with how to work within history and on history. And I think that in the 90s I was kind of working on a project on La Défense and a project on the airport of Zurich. And there we didn't precisely deal with preservation, but we dealt with the question of how you can establish which parts of a city need to exist and to be preserved, and which parts can be basically destroyed or taken away. So what we're doing here also is kind of saying that there cannot be preservation without having also a theory about what should go.
And the beginning, I mean, the first epiphany you said was that 78, 79 Dutch Parliament. Thinking already there, you said that basically preservation embodies a revision, a distortion, a redesign, and only architecture which is unapologetic about its modernity can preserve and articulate the tradition of appropriation. Can you talk about this? Because that seems to be the first epiphany, no?
Yeah, you could even say that the kind of very, very first one was on the Biennale here by Paolo Portoghese, The Presence of the Past. And that was kind of supposedly the one that launched postmodernism, and we were present together, as two outsiders, together with Frank Gehry. We had kind of opposite booth somewhere here, and that was where we kind of presented, I guess, for the first time, an explicit relationship with the past.
Then there is also the Panopticon project, which is early on, which is shown in the pavilion here, which is the couple Panopticon.
Yeah, that was you're right to mention that, because that was also when we looked retrospectively at our own work, there is this concern with history and with the past, and that was one competition we had. It was not a competition, it was a commission where we had to renovate a prison that was dating from the 19th century, and where we discovered that the beauty of historical architecture is very often that it is so big that it has so many symbolic extra space and extra dimensions, that actually it turns out to be much more flexible than kind of modern architecture, which is always trying to be very precise about program and very precise about organization. It turns out that you could inhabit this dome building of the Panopticon prison in 15 different ways, some of them which are completely the opposite of how it is intended to be used, and that you can rarely say that kind of for modern architecture. So it was an early awareness that the extra dimension of historical architecture also translates in a kind of beautiful kind of flexibility, which even flexible architecture in the contemporary sense very, 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 very rarely has.
Yeah, and you describe here also that basically it became literally the opposite of what it was at the beginning. Yeah. So that basically the idea of actually empty cells with prisoners maybe alone in their cells have become as busy as a Milan Galleria, no?
Yeah,
the opposite.
Yeah. I mean, that's a quote. I mean, it was actually really ironic, because it was intended that wardens were sitting in the center looking at the people in their cells, but actually became the prisoners kind of could move freely throughout the prison, and they were looking at the wardens having coffee in the center. So a very Dutch reversal.
And what prompted the idea that in Venice, Sejima's topic here is people meeting architecture, what prompted you to, for the first time, bring this whole preservation topic together?
The kind of really prompting is, for the first time, an awareness. I mean, we were always very interested in issues of preservation, but we started to really look into the quantitative consequences of preservation at the scale in which it is kind of currently promoted. And it's also kind of based on a kind of very nice meeting in Thomas de Man's Nationaal Gallery exhibition with the director of UNESCO, where we were brought together and where he kind of suggested and revealed that actually currently between 3 and 4% of the world is heritage site. Yeah? So we began to kind of realize that actually territories as big as India, if you accumulate everything, are supposed to not develop anymore, and that there is an enormous amount in the pipeline. And so we then started to look quantitatively, how much of the world, both the land and the sea, is preserved, and we came to the conclusion that it may reach very soon a 12% scale, and once that kind of becomes a reality, obviously, there's no theory about it, and there's also no theory how the world can live with, on the one hand, radical change, and on the other hand, radical stasis. Yeah, because that's, I think, what is going to happen. And so that is why we called our exhibition Chrono-Chaos, because it means that there is a kind of short circuit in the whole concept of chronology, and that all the times are beginning to live at the same time. And so I don't think we have an apparatus to really think about that yet.